And present to them the example of the life of this world. It's being like rain, which we send down from the sky. And the vegetation of the earth mingles with it. And then it becomes dry remnants, scattered by the winds. And Allah is ever over all things, perfect in ability. Al-malu wal-banun zinatul hayatid dunya. Wealth and children are but adornment of the worldly life. Wal-baqiyat as-salihat. But the enduring good deeds are better to your Lord for reward and better for one's hope. The example of this life is given over here. And what is that example? Like that of a garden that becomes lush and green when rain falls upon it. Any piece of land, any garden, when rain falls, what happens to it? It becomes lush and green. But then after some time, when rain does not fall for a week or two, and the heat is very intense, then what happens? You see the same grass getting dried up. You see those same beautiful flowers and plants dying. And then eventually what happens? They completely die, and what is left of it? Exactly what is mentioned in this ayah, dry remnants. And those dry remnants, what happens to them? They're scattered by the wind. I mean, it's amazing. Every year we see this process. That throughout the springtime and the summertime, we see, for example, plants, trees becoming so beautiful, growing, lush, green, colorful. And then what happens by the end of the season? They begin to lose their color. They begin to lose their brightness. And what happens when fall kicks in? You see everything falling. And if it doesn't fall, then what's the color of it? It is exactly what's mentioned over here. That it is فَأَصْبَحَ هَشِيمًا تَذْرُوهُ الرِّيَاحِ. Yellow, brown. Why? Because it's dry, withered. And when the wind blows, then it is scattered by the winds. And this is the reality of this life. This is the reality of the things that we get in this life. The people that we love, the youth that we have, the things that we accumulate. They look really nice at the beginning. Really nice. But then what happens over time? They age. What happens over time? They become old. What happens over time? They break. They die. They go away. Every time I see garbage day, and the garbage is sitting outside, I always think so much garbage came out of one house. That meant that something went into this house, which is why so much garbage has come out. Just a week before, probably, all of that stuff was brought in as food. Or as different forms of groceries. So for example, bottles of juice, cans, soap and all of that. And then what happens once they're used up? What is the worth of that bottle? What is the worth of that can? It is garbage. It is put outside. It doesn't have any value. So you see within a week or two, how things of this world literally lose their value. But at the beginning, they look so nice, so beautiful, so attractive. What is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling us here? That this life, no matter how beautiful it is, the things of this world, no matter how valuable they may be, remember that they are temporary. They will certainly lose their value. So what is it that you should truly be investing your time and your money and your life in? In what? Al-baqiyatu salihat. Al-malu wal-banun, because wealth and children, what are they? Just adornment of this life. And we know that every adornment, what happens to it after some time? It doesn't remain beautiful anymore. Like for example, the month of Ramadan is here. Many people have decorated their houses. Or on Eid, they will decorate their houses. What will happen after a week or two? Those decorations will be taken off. And sometimes you see those very decorations where? In the garbage. In the garbage. So what happens? Al-malu wal-banun zinatul hayatid dunya. No matter what we have, who we have in this life, remember, these are just the beautifications of this world. Meaning they are temporary. So what you should really be striving towards is al-baqiyatus salihat. Good deeds that will endure. Good deeds that will remain. Meaning good deeds remain. And the things of this world, they do not remain. They die, they finish. And the good deeds that a person performs, they make it to the akhirah. They are preserved for the hereafter. And when they're preserved for the hereafter, then a person can enjoy the fruit of that, the reward of that, forever, for eternity. And warn of the day when we will remove the mountains and you will see the earth prominent, and we will gather them and not leave behind from them anyone. And they will be presented before your Lord in rows. And He will say, you have certainly come to us just as we created you the first time. But you claimed that we would never make for you an appointment. Because this is what happens. We come alone in this world and we go alone. We came in this world and we have to go back to where we came from. Inna lillahi, we belong to Allah, wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We have to return to Him. And when we have to return to Him, that means our stay here is temporary. But what happens while we're living this life? We think that this is everything. Which is why many times all that we are concerned about is now. Now, today, this year, my youth, my life, my money, my house. And the record of deeds will be placed open. And you will see the criminals fearful of that within it. And they will say, oh, woe to us. What is this book that leaves nothing small or great except that it has enumerated it? This book of deeds, what does Allah say? That on the Day of Judgment people will say, يَا وَيْلَتَنَا مَا لِهَذَا الْكِتَابِ لَا يُغَادِرُ صَغِيرَةً وَلَا كَبِيرَةً إِلَّا أَحْصَاهَا. This book has left nothing big or small except that it has enumerated it. Meaning every small or big thing that we do, any big or small action, word that we say, it doesn't just fly away. It doesn't just go in history and get lost in space. No, it is preserved. Where is it preserved? Where is it caught and kept? In the record of deeds. And on the Day of Judgment, this record of deeds will be put before us, from which nothing at all will be missing. Everything we have done, whether we did it privately or publicly, whether it was small or big. The Prophet ﷺ said, O Aisha, he said to his wife, beware of sins that are regarded as insignificant. Beware of sins that are considered small. Why? Because what happens? These sins are small, but they add up. And on the Day of Judgment, every small thing will seem like big. Hasn't it ever happened that you get, for example, a test paper or an assignment back, and you see minus 0.25, minus 0.25, minus 0.5, and it seems like small. But what happens? When you add up, you realize you've lost 5 marks. You realize you've lost 10 marks. And especially those of you who have taken translation tests, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Right? It adds up. It seems very small, but it adds up. Because you wonder at that time that, where was I? Why wasn't I paying attention? Why did I say that? Why did I do it? I could have avoided it. And many times it happens that it is these small things that we consider insignificant. A small good deed we consider insignificant, and a small sin also we consider insignificant. The Prophet ﷺ said that the spit that was spat in the direction of the Qibla will be on the face of the one who spat it. On the Day of Judgment, he will come with that spit on his face. Who? The one who spat in the direction of the Qibla. Now this is something that is small, apparently very small. That a person goes to the masjid, he starts praying, and he coughs or something, and he spits deliberately in the direction of the Qibla while praying. And this is a sin. It seems very small, but on the Day of Judgment, that will come on his face. And imagine the embarrassment. So we have to be careful about these little things also, especially when we're going to the masjid. Let's not throw date seeds everywhere, and tissue papers and water bottles, and food. Even if it's, 1 grain of rice that we have dropped on a masjid carpet, let's pick it up afterwards. Because if we are dirtying the masjid, then this could be very serious on the Day of Judgment. لَا يُغَادِرُ صَغِيرَةً وَلَا كَبِيرَةً إِلَّا أَحْصَاهَا. And they will find what they did, whatever they did, present before them. And your Lord does injustice to nobody. He doesn't do injustice to anyone. And mention when we said to the angels, prostrate to Adam. And they prostrated, except for Iblis. He was of the jinn, and departed from the command of his Lord. Then will you take him and his descendants as allies other than me? Allah is saying that I gave you everything, and you listen to shaitan? While they are enemies to you, wretched it is for the wrongdoers as an exchange. Meaning, what a terrible exchange. Allah who made you, you leave Him, you don't obey Him. and you obey your enemy? What a terrible exchange you've made. I did not make them witness to the creation of the heavens and the earth, or to the creation of themselves, and I would not have taken the misguiders as assistants, and warn of the day when He will say, call my partners whom you claimed. Meaning you claimed that I had partners, where are they now? And they will invoke them, but they will not respond to them. They will get no answer. And we will put between them a valley of destruction. Meaning, now there will be no option but destruction for such people who associated partners with Allah. And the criminals will see the fire and will be certain that they are to fall therein, and they will not find from it a way elsewhere. And we have certainly diversified in this Qur'an for the people from every kind of example. But man has ever been, most of anything, prone to dispute. And nothing has prevented the people from believing when guidance came to them, and from asking forgiveness of their Lord, except that there must befall them the accustomed precedent of the former peoples, or that the punishment should come directly before them. Meaning, when the reasons are so clear for people to seek forgiveness from Allah, to accept the guidance that Allah has sent, why is it not that they go forward, they respond to Allah? Why isn't it that they seek forgiveness from Allah? Why? Because they have just followed the habit of the previous people. Meaning this is sadly the way of people, that when the truth is so obvious to them, what do they prefer? Their desires. They still prefer their desires. So we need to check that when I realize I've made a mistake, what is preventing me from seeking forgiveness from Allah? Is it my wishes? Is it my desires? Is it the temporary enjoyment of this world? And we send not the messengers except as bringers of good tidings and warners. And those who disbelieve dispute by using falsehood to attempt to invalidate thereby the truth, and have taken my verses and that of which they are warned in ridicule. And who is more unjust than one who is reminded of the verses of his Lord, but turns away from them? He is reminded of the verses of Allah, but then what does he do? He turns away from them. Meaning he is advised, but he says, I don't want this advice. You see, accepting any kind of feedback is something that is difficult. Why? Even feedback, when you've done something and you want other people to advise you about how you did, it's difficult to hear because your mistakes are being pointed out. Reading your lesson to your teacher is always difficult. Why? You can read it to yourself very easily, but when you have to read it to your teacher, why is it difficult? Because her job is to find mistakes in your lesson. So it's difficult. So what happens sometimes? Our mistakes are pointed out. We are told, you need to correct yourself like this because Allah says such and such. The ayah is something else. So the one who says, no, I am right. I am right. Allah says, who could be more unjust than this person? Why? Because what is preventing him from accepting his mistake? What is preventing him? It is arrogance. And this is a crime. And he forgets what his hands have put forth. Meaning he forgets the mistake that he has made. So anytime we have made a mistake, anytime, and somebody advises us that, look, my dear sister, Allah says such and such. In the Qur'an, this is what we are commanded to do. The Prophet ﷺ advised such and such. Then what should we do over there? Accept it, not become arrogant. Indeed, we have placed over their hearts coverings, lest they understand it. And in their ears is deafness. And if you invite them to guidance, they will never be guided then, ever. And your Lord is the forgiving, full of mercy. وَرَبُّكَ الْغَفُورُ ذُو الرَّحْمَةِ. If He were to impose blame upon them for what they earned, He would have hastened for them the punishment. Rather for them is an appointment for which they will never find an escape. And those cities of the past, which are well known to you, we destroyed them when they wronged, and we made for their destruction an appointed time. So take warning. The people of the past also committed serious crimes. And what happened eventually? Their time expired. Your time in this world is also limited. So take a lesson from the people of the past. وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِفَتَاهُ. And mention when Musa ﷺ said to his servant, لا أبرح, I will not cease, I will not stop, حتى أبلغ مجمع البحرين أو أمضي حقبا, until I reach the junction of the two seas, or I continue for a long period. The background of this is that Musa a.s. was once asked by somebody that who is the most knowledgeable person on earth? Who has the most knowledge? And Musa a.s. said that I don't know of anybody who has more knowledge than me right now on the earth. Why? Because he was the Prophet of Allah. So he thought that he was the most knowledgeable person on the earth. This was not pride. Rather, it was just what he thought to be correct. So he was just informing the other person of what he thought. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not like that statement. Which means that any time we are asked about our knowledge, should we be arrogant over there? We should be humble over there. We shouldn't show off the amount of knowledge that we have. It doesn't mean that we cannot inform the other person. We can inform them. However, it should not be with this feeling that I am the most knowledgeable. I know a lot. I know the most. One should not compare himself with other people all the time, thinking that he has more knowledge, so he is better off. Because the worst type of arrogance is the arrogance of knowledge. So what happened? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed Musa alayhi salam that there is another servant of mine, Al-Khidr, who has more knowledge than you. Musa alayhi salam wanted to go to him and learn from him what Musa alayhi salam did not know. So what happened? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed him about where Musa alayhi salam would find Al-Khidr. And what was that place? The junction of the two seas. The place where the two seas met, where they intersected. And the place, the exact point where they would meet Al-Khidr would be the place where the fish would leave them, because they were instructed to take a fish with them. So the place where the fish would leave them, that is the point where they would meet Al-Khidr. So what happened? Musa a.s. set out on this journey with Yusha ibn Nun, and look at his determination over here. He's telling his servant Yusha that I am not going to stop until I reach my destination. What was his destination? The junction of the two seas. And he says, even if it takes me years and years, centuries, I will not stop. In other words, I am not going to give up. What about us? What happens to us after we have come for a class for 15? Is it the 16th day now? It's the 16th day, right? Alhamdulillah. What happens? These thoughts, they come in our minds that perhaps I should take today off. Maybe one day off. Maybe one day break. But look at Musa a.s. He says, I am not going to stop until I reach my destination, my target. So do we have a goal over here also? What is our goal? To inshallah reflect on the entire Qur'an, cover to cover. Not even missing one ayah of the book of Allah. Every ayah inshallah. So that is the target. Now what happens is that at the beginning, you're very enthusiastic. Yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. But what happens when you begin to feel tired? When your back is hurting, when you're feeling hungry, when you're feeling sleepy, when you've done something for too long, you begin to feel tired. This is something natural. But look at the eagerness of Musa a.s. that I am not going to stop until I reach there. I'm going to have sabr until I reach my destination, until I reach my goal. And once I've reached my goal, then inshallah I can rest. Right? But for now, I'm not going to allow myself to rest. أَوْ أَمْضِيَ حُقُوبًا. Even if it takes me centuries to get there, I am not going to stop. And this is the kind of determination that the seeker of knowledge needs to have. Have you ever found yourself very eager to find something at a store? What happens? Your feet are hurting, your legs are hurting, but you're like, don't stop. Don't go until you have it. Isn't it? And it's amazing how somebody will be standing in the line for you, and you keep running back and forth, looking for more stuff. That maybe, perhaps, it's in another aisle. What is that? That's determination, that's eagerness. Musa a.s., he was eager for ilm. He was eager to learn more, even though he was the Prophet of Allah. And what is he doing over here? He's traveling to learn. This is called a rihla fi talab al-ilm. Traveling in order to seek knowledge. You see, one way of learning is learning it in the comfort of your home. That is fine. It is an option for who? For those who are not able to go. But for those who are able to go, then should they just stay at home? In the comfort of their home and learn over there? No. You see, once you go out of your house, you are leaving behind what? Your house. Right? Which means that you're leaving behind distractions. You're out in order to fulfill one purpose. And what happens when you go for that purpose, then all of your attention is focused on that goal, on that purpose. I mean, you could be listening to this class online also. Like there's so many people, and may Allah reward them for doing it from their home because they're not able to come. But for those who can come, right, this is also an option. Just sit at home and turn the computer on and listen. And then what happens? Oh, let me lie down. Let me check my phone. Who messaged me? Oh, and then there's a YouTube link and oh, okay, video. Oh, now they've started the next juz, next surah, right? So it happens. Or you're lying down and you think, why am I just lying down and listening? Let me just get up and start folding laundry. So what happens at home? What happens? You get distracted. It happens with me at least. Because these distractions are there. Because if you think about it, Khidr could have been sent to Musa alayhi salam. Musa alayhi salam was made to leave the Bani Israel, leave all his daily work and daily problems, leave everything at home, and go travel, find the teacher, and go learn from the teacher. Why? Because when you go out and learn, you learn from the experience of going as well. You don't just learn the information, you also learn from the people who are there, from the people who are sitting around you. Because when you interact with different people, then you get to learn from them also. Knowledge doesn't come to you, you have to go to it. And this is sunnah of Allah. The Prophet Musa a.s. is made to go to Al-Khidr. فَلَمَّا بَلَغَا مَجْمَعَ بَيْنِهِمَا. But when they reached the junction between them, meaning when they reached the destination, what happened? They forgot the fish. They forgot the fish. They reached the destination, but what we learn is that they began resting over there. And during that rest, they forgot the fish. You see what happened? The rest of a short while was enough to put them behind. Was enough to put them behind in their journey. Sometimes the break of even one day puts us way back. For example, if you did not come today, would you be able to listen to the juz? No. And if you didn't listen, would that be same as listening? No. Reading through a juz and not reading through a juz, are they the same? No, they're not the same. So never allow yourself to take a break from something that is important, from something that you've set as a goal for yourself. So for instance, when it comes to the month of Ramadan, are we allowed to take a break in the middle if we feel like it? If we get too tired and hungry and thirsty, can we do that? No, there's no option. These 30 days is a training period. Don't allow yourself to take a break because you can do it. Just stretch out your capacity a little bit. Just increase your capacity a little bit. Because how much will you rest? How much will you enjoy? You'll get bored of enjoying also. You'll get bored of resting also. And this life is not for rest and comfort. This life is for work. Every day is precious. Every moment is precious. So in our lives, we should be dedicating at least some time for the worship of Allah, for learning the deen of Allah. Just as Musa a.s., he left his obligations just for a brief period so that he could learn. And the fish, when they forgot it, it took its course into the sea, slipping away as if making a tunnel. So when they had passed beyond it, Musa a.s. said to his boy, "Bring us our morning meal. We have certainly suffered in this, our journey, much fatigue." Musa a.s. said that I am tired. Bring me my food. You see, prophets were human beings. They used to get hungry. They used to get tired. And sometimes we also get tired, actually a lot. Right? We get hungry and thirsty also, and that is perfectly normal. That's normal. And there's no harm in talking about it, like Musa a.s. is telling his servant that I am tired. Bring me my food. I'm hungry. So there's nothing wrong in saying that as long as a person is not complaining. He said, "Did you see when we retired to the rock? Do you remember when we rested? Indeed, I forgot there the fish. You were resting, I was watching, and the fish, I forgot it. And none made me forget it except shaitan, that I should mention it to you. Because the fish, it took its course into the sea amazingly." This shows that Musa a.s. was resting, and the boy was watching, Yusha bin Nun was watching, and he saw the fish escape. And that meant that they had reached the exact point where they were to meet Al-Khidr. But Musa a.s. was resting, so he didn't disturb Musa a.s. And when Musa a.s. woke up, what happened? He forgot to tell him. And they continued on their journey. They went past the destination. And he said, "Shaitan made me forget." Now imagine, they have no food because the fish is gone. And they have also passed the destination. Imagine the hunger and the worry. Imagine that now they have to go back in order to reach the destination. And going back when you're lost in your journey, that's the most difficult part. Even if it takes a few minutes, it's very, very difficult. It's very heavy on you. But the thing is that when a person is out in order to seek knowledge, then Allah will surely test him. This was the test of Musa a.s. that you said such a big statement, La abrahu, I will never cease, I will not stop, I will continue. So now, will you continue or will you give up? Will you continue or will you give up? So we see over here, Musa a.s., he's suffering, he's hungry, he's tired, and now he has to go back. You see, rihla fi talab al-ilm, it requires effort and sacrifice. And we see this in the lives of the people who really learned, preserved, and taught knowledge. You know, Imam al-Shafi'i, there's a story about him. It is said that once he was going with some of his friends, they were traveling. And of course, he was a person of knowledge, he was of the Ahlul Ilm, so if they were traveling for the purpose of either seeking more ilm or teaching it or something like that. So, it is said that they had with them some food. And it was some chickens that were cooked, roasted. And they had tied them up in a bag or something, and they continued on their journey. And in their journey, it was time to pray salah. So they put their food, and they put their belongings on the side, and they started praying. And when they were praying, a fox came, and it took one of the chickens away. And now what happened, Imam al-Shafi'i and his friends, when they finished the prayer, when they went after the fox, so clever, it dropped that chicken, and then it went and it took the remaining chickens. So now what happened? They lost everything. They lost all their food. And this is Imam al-Shafi'i. Now, this is something that happens. You go to study, you realize you have no lunch. You go to study, and this is why you have to cut down on your sleep. You can't sleep. I mean, especially these nights, I don't know when you get to sleep. I don't know when to sleep. Because during the day, the kids are awake, and in the nighttime, the nights are so short. And with the suhoor and the qiyam, there is absolutely no time in which you can rest. Especially when you have to leave early morning, then again, no time to rest. So, this is the hardship that a person suffers in talabul ilm. And remember that until and unless a person exerts effort to seek knowledge, he cannot get it. He cannot receive it. It is said, أَعْطِ الْعِلْمَ كُلَّكَ تَأْخُذْ بَعْضَهُ. You give all of yourself to knowledge, all of yourself, mentally, physically. You invest yourself. You throw yourself, like you literally give all of yourself in order to seek knowledge. And then what will you get? Some of it. Some of it. You still cannot have everything. Meaning seeking knowledge is not something that is simple. It requires a lot of effort. It requires a lot of determination, a lot of sacrifice. Musa a.s. said, that is what we were seeking. So they returned, following their footprints. فَوَجَدَ عَبْدًا مِّنْ عِبَادِنَا. And they found a servant from among our servants, to whom we had given mercy from us, and had taught him from us a certain knowledge. Who was this? Al-Khidr. Eventually they found him. قَالَ لَهُ مُوسَى. Musa a.s. said to him, may I follow you on the condition that you teach me from what you have been taught of sound judgment? Notice how the student is taking the permission of the teacher. May I learn from you? What happens today? Well, I've submitted the form, I better get admission. We take it for granted. Or we are being begged, come and learn, come and study, come on. And look at Musa a.s., so humble. May I learn from you? Would you please teach me? And again, this shows his eagerness to learn. Because until a person himself wants to learn, nobody can force knowledge down their throat. Nobody can do that. We ourselves have to be eager. He said, indeed with me, you will never be able to have patience. And how can you have patience for what you do not encompass in knowledge? Meaning this is something very hard. This is something that you will find very difficult. You won't be able to observe patience. Musa a.s. said, you will find me if Allah wills patient, and I will not disobey you in any order. So a good student listens to the teacher. He said, then if you follow me, do not ask me about anything until I make to you about it mention. In other words, no questions allowed, not even wise. So Musa a.s. agreed, and they both set out until they had embarked on a ship. Al-Khidr tore that ship apart, open. Meaning he made a hole in that ship. Musa a.s. said, have you torn it open to drown its people? You have certainly done a grave thing. Al-Khidr said, أَلَمْ أَقُلْ إِنَّكَ لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعِيَ صَبْرًا. Did I not say that with me, you would never be able to have patience? Did I not tell you that you won't be able to be patient over this ilm? Musa a.s. said, do not blame me for what I forgot. Musa a.s. is showing humility here. And do not cover me in my matter with difficulty. So they set out. Al-Khidr forgave. Until when they met a boy, Al-Khidr killed him. Musa a.s. said, have you killed a pure soul for other than having killed a soul? Meaning an innocent child you've killed? You have certainly done a deplorable thing. Meaning this is something very serious. How could you do it? Inshallah, we'll conclude over here. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. And present to them the example of the life of this world. It's being like rain, which we send down from the sky, and the vegetation of the earth.